So yeah, I was invited in a summit, a conference, in a think tank about copyright issues for musicians and artists in general in Africa. They called me to come and talk about the artist point of view when it comes to that. So it was a 15-minute intervention in the middle of a whole think tank where we would talk about all these different things about copyright issues in Africa. And that was very interesting because everybody else, other than maybe 2-3 artists, everybody was CEOs or number twos of right collecting societies. So, and everything was presided by an organism called Le MOCA, and then co-presided by CISAC. So, a few things to understand about what is CISAC. So, and first, what is a right collecting society? A right collecting society is to make it very, very simple, so it doesn't take hours to explain to you. Whenever you play your songs on radios, whenever your songs are played on a TV, on a concert, in a store, XYZ, normally the people who are playing your music for free to other people are supposed to pay a fee for all the songs they play. So let's say you have a store. Let's say you are the director of a Zara store in a shopping center, and you play music from a playlist on Spotify. You have to pay, let's say you have every year around 200,000 people that are going in your store. The copyright society will say, okay, for this store, or maybe they will talk directly to the whole group, but usually they go from store location to location. So let's stay on store. They will come to you and they will say, listen, for this store, you have 200,000 people coming in your store every year, and you play this list of songs or these playlists. Send us the playlist of the things you play usually, or maybe we can put a box that recognizes everything that plays in the store, and you will pay us. I don't know the exact number, but let's say you will pay us 500,000 for copyrights, to have a license and the possibility to play whatever you want to play in the store. And those 500,000, I'm making up numbers. Those 500,000, or maybe 50,000, whatever, it depends the size of your store, they get sent to a right collecting society that recuperates the right for creators, and then those creators get paid for every time their song is played in those things. So it's the same thing when you want a concert. If you organize a concert, before your show can start here in Portugal, you have to pay a fee. So let's say you have 2,000 people in your show, you must pay 1,000 euros to the collecting society, and tell them the set list, which is what song you're going to sing, so that the writers and composers of those songs can be paid. Same thing when you are watching a show on TV. If somebody is playing your song in an ad or during the news, or listen, every time you hear music somewhere, somebody is supposed to get paid. And who's getting paid is us, writers, composers. So that's the job of the right collecting society. Now, the CISAC is like the mothership of all collecting society. They are all part of CISAC. So from all 220 countries, most of them are part of this, so that Whenever you register your song in one of them, so here in Portugal we have the SPA. When you register your song in SPA, this song is then sent to a database that all of them share, which is called the SysNet. And so the CEO of CZAC Africa was there to be there and have a conversation with us. Great guy. We had great conversation, and actually everybody loved my intervention on the keynote, because I was talking more about my conversation was about knowledge. That in reality, the problem that I found in this conversation that I was hearing that was very interesting was that most of the time, all these companies are complaining about the fact that they need an enforcement or all the strategies that they are trying to do so that artists in Africa can also receive their copyright. Because everything that I explained to you about how the rights are collected, it's what happens in Europe, France, Portugal, etc. In the US, probably Japan and stuff. But in South Africa and in Africa, in South America and Africa, it's not always the case. It depends what companies, what countries. There are a lot of laws that are not being respected, whereas in Europe, for example, all the laws have been harmonized. So the CZAC is actually, we have like a European law for copyrights that all these companies have to abide. So if somebody plays my song out there in, I don't know, in Romania or in Latvia or in Norway, even if it's not part exactly of Europe, but my rights will flow down to me because all these companies are part of a big network. If my song plays in Africa, it's not the same story. And that's exactly why we were there, to talk about that, what we can do to change that. And me, what I was saying was that the first problem, in my opinion, is the lack of knowledge from artists. A lot of artists, they have no clue how this works. They have no clue how these companies work, and they don't even know their own rights. They only believe that I have to do a hit so that if everybody loves my song, people will call me to do a show and I will make money from shows. They don't realize all the different rights that they own when they write a song. There was a woman that was a screenwriter in Nigeria, and she was explaining that she had a movie that was playing on Netflix, and she just got paid $300 to write the script, and that's it. And her thing was playing for millions of people on Netflix, and she received nothing from that. And to me, that's ignorance. It's and as she was saying, we are forced to accept those terms because we need to eat. And as long as you don't know how it's supposed to work, you will accept the things. When you start documenting yourself on what you're supposed to do when you do a song, it's another conversation. So you have to go in, you have to be able, first of all, as an artist, you have to take 1 hour out of Instagram and TikTok or whatever movie that you're watching to go and document yourself and understand when you do a song, you have the master that is generating money when people buy. You also have the work. Every work must have a IS or ISCW number and a IRSC, which are numbers that can be recognized to track your work anywhere in the world. So every song I do has those things. So whenever a song of mine is played on a platform, wherever in the world, I can have those numbers just because of the ISRC. And the ISWC, the work, knows, let's say I did a song with Bodhisattva, it will know composer, Bodhisattva, Armani Kombo Nangemon, and writer, Edward Mokolo, Kaysha. So all this is in a network that is worldwide. But if you don't know about this, how are you supposed to even understand where do you register? So I told all these companies that their real problem is that they love talking between themselves, but they don't talk to the artists. The artists have no idea of how it works. And I told the guys from CZAC, the guy from CZAC Africa, I said, listen, you guys are not even on TikTok and Instagram where the people are. You should have a presence in all social media and commission people like me to create small videos of 1 minute. Listen, I can do videos in English, French, Portuguese, where I explain to artists what they are supposed to do when they leave the studio and they're done writing a song, or if they write at home. They should go register their song to the local, and every country has a company to collect your rights. But if you not register them there, when your song plays and there's money arriving, nobody knows who to give that money. So it stay there for 10 years and then it just disappears, or it gets redistributed between all the members. So you never get your money. So you have to know all that. And I was telling all these people, listen, artists need knowledge. They need to understand their business and they need to understand what are their rights. And I was telling that woman that is a screenwriter, there's rights for you too. They exist. And there's international rights, especially when Netflix is using a movie that you wrote. You should actually be able to claim your rights. But for that, every time you do a script, you have to understand how it works for writers, Writers Guild, etc., international, and be able to protect whatever you write. So that even if somebody is trying to steal it, it's impossible because they are your rights. And they are protected in these collecting societies. So that whenever a movie wants to be on Netflix, first of all, they will make sure that not only you are credited, but also your rights go back to you. It is very, very, very important. And a lot of people, their problem is that all they care about is doing shows. And my question to everybody that is obsessed with shows is always the same. What if you break your leg? What if you break your hands? Listen, you go skiing, you break both your hands and you cannot hold the microphone for 6 months and you have to cancel all your shows. What do you do then? How do you survive? What do you live from? And there was a epidemiologist from Rwanda who was there. Great person that I met there. And she was explaining to us that they have a big artist there in Rwanda who was doing a lot of shows, but he got something at the stomach. He had to go to surgery. And because he had no social security, nothing, in the state, he was just, musician. Sometimes we are not even considered as citizens because we don't pay taxes, because most of the time the money is cash money, so it doesn't exist. And if you don't pay your taxes, you don't exist to the government. If you don't exist to the government and you don't have social security because you don't pay for it, well, that guy was at the hospital, and even if he was one of the number one artists in Rwanda, he didn't have money to pay for the hospital fees. And he was like a A-list celebrity. And this is the things that happen in Africa with a lot of artists. Some of them make a lot of money because they do a lot of shows, they get a lot of cash, but they don't exist. And there's no infrastructure in place so that artists understand that, listen, every time your music plays on TV, normally you're supposed to make money. Even when your music plays on your own shows, you're supposed to get money. Listen, they make music for a lot of artists in Portugal, in France, and whenever Lila goes sings On a changé from les déesses, and it's registered, or when Blaya here in Portugal sings one of the 5 songs I wrote in her album, or Buraca Som Sistema, or Anselmo Ralph, Ciquat Pedro, Nelson Freitas, whenever they perform in a festival, I receive the exact date of when they perform my song, or the song that we co-wrote, or that I wrote, or I composed. I received the exact time where that song was played in a concert, what date, or what show, what TV show it was played in, and the date it was played, and how much money I made. Listen, it can be 35 euros, it can be 70 euros if it's a big festival. If an artist performs like 100 times in the year, and every time they perform you make 70 euros, if they perform 100 times, that's 7,000 euros you make from that person without leaving your home. And all this is because all my rights are protected. All my songs are registered. Every time I do a new song, first thing I do is register it. You can do it online with all these companies. And the conversations we were having with all these collecting societies. So there was the CEO of the one from Senegal, the one from Nigeria, the one from South Africa, the one from Ivory Coast, the one from Rwanda, CISAC. There was a guy from Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco. There was the head of the one from Morocco, because we were also hosted by Morocco, and thank you, was amazing. Rabat. Listen, it was like 100 or 200 of us, so it was a lot of country being represented. Sadly, Congo was only represented by artists, not by the Congolese society. And all of them were explaining the different problems, and me, I was explaining to them that if the artists don't know that you exist, they will not register with you guys. And I was like, listen, in Africa, every artist has a YouTube channel, and they can upload videos of 1 gigabyte whenever they do a new video, and put all the things that it needs to be done so that people can view the music video on YouTube. So if they had a website where they could register their work directly online the same way, they would do it. Now, do you have those websites in place? In every country. Some countries do. Some others, they're still on paper and pen. And this new generation, they don't know how to write. They know how to type. So how are you telling me that you guys are not on Instagram actively telling all these people, all these artists, hey, come to us. These are your rights. You know, do you know that when you do a song, listen, in 1 minute, I can do you a video. Do you know that when you do a song, you have these, and these rights? Come register. Boom. That's how you get the people, the young people, to come and register their work, the old people as well. And listen, if you imagine a guy like me, right? I have a song called On dit quoi that came out 20 years ago in 2003. It came out in Europe, where we made money from the CD sales. We made money from copyright in Europe, right? But where this song was the most popular was Africa. And in Africa, in West and Central Africa, this song never generated $1. The only way I made money from that song was when I would go and perform shows. But that song played in TV thousands of times, played in radios thousands of times all over Africa. What is played in all the bars, is played in all the parties until today. And I never make $1 from that song in Africa. I only make money from Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SACEM, SPA, PRS, the French, English, the European and American collecting society pay me. But the African collecting societies, nothing. You know how much millions of dollars I would have if that song, the last 20 years that it's been playing nonstop, how much money I would have? Listen, I would be set, house bought, etc., if I could have the money that I would be owed if my songs were generating the money that they are making in Europe, if my rights were respected in Africa. And they're not. So I was having this conversation with all these people, and they were telling us what are the issues for them. And it was very interesting to hear that for a lot of them, the Nigerian guy was saying that what needs to be done is enforcement, which is great to do laws, right? But people will not respect them in Africa. And listen, people would not respect them in Europe as well if they were not enforced. I remember back in 2006-7 in Portugal, police would come to the clubs and stop the music and go to the DJ to make sure that all the CDs they were playing were legit CDs bought at the store and no blank CDs with copied tracks on it or MP3s. So all the DJs, after getting a fine a few times, they start buying music, or they start telling us, hey, I only play the music when I have the real CD. So they would come to the club with their, their thing where they put all their CDs, and they would have the real CD. And whenever the police would come, they would say, yeah, here it is. Here's the real CD, to not be fined. If not, the DJs would be fined and the clubs would be fined. And that's how you make people respect your rights. If you just tell them, hey, can you register whatever and pay $2,000 every month for playing music from other people, they will be like, no. Because most people, they don't want to pay. And in Africa, it comes to a thing where it's actually you need actually a will from you need the governments to be willing to not only have laws in place, but also have people that can enforce these laws. All these concerts happening in Africa, normally the number of people should be counted, and every time there's X number of people, before the show can begin, the organizers of these concerts have to pay, listen, whatever, 10 cents, 5 cents, 0.1 cent for every person there. You have to pay, and then after that, we can redistribute to whoever has their song playing in there. And you know why this is important? It is important because this is how African artists stop dreaming of going to Europe to make it. They can start making it at home, be superstars at home, and not being rich just from shows, but also after the buzz. Because listen, the buzz lasts 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. When the buzz is gone and there's a new generation replacing you, if you made enough money, you're supposed to be good. But if you didn't, you have no revenue anymore. But if you're in the systems, like the way I'm in the system, when your buzz has died down and you go to legend status or old school or whatever you want to call it, guys like me continue to make money from all their catalog, because I have rights on 1,300 songs. That's a lot of songs that I either compose, co-compose, wrote, or co-wrote, or sometimes both. And for me, because I live in Europe and I'm with a European collecting society, it makes all sense. And listen, I can not only, and I pay my taxes on the money I make, so I exist for the government, so that whenever there's help for artists, I'm part of it. When we were in quarantine, all blocked at home, I was receiving money from the government just because I was paying and I exist as a taxpayer, and I can also have my social security, and I also have private social, how you call it, that private healthcare that I pay for my whole family. But I can do all that because I receive money from all these places all the time. Every day I receive money from somewhere. And it would be so amazing if the artists in the continent were also able to get to this point where the systems are in place so that the money reaches them. But listen, why the task is, it's a long road to get there, because it's a lot of things. A lot of people don't have bank accounts. Here in Europe or in the US, there's more people that have bank accounts than unbanked people. In Africa, it's the opposite. Only middle and high class people have bank accounts. Everybody else just have cash. So how you do in a society where people don't have bank accounts to send them their money? Because you cannot just give them a check, because how do they collect their check, right? You cannot wire them money because they don't have all these things. They don't have PayPal, they don't have crypto accounts, they don't have bank accounts. A lot of people are there. They want some cash, they do their show, they take their cash, they eat for the night, the week, they make their family eat, survive another day, and then they're hustling for the next day. So if you want to be in a predicament where everybody lives more like me, you have to change the whole system, and you need to have governments that are willing to do something for the culture. Listen, culture is the fourth pillar of a society. Culture is soft power. But most governments in Africa, most people, they don't take singers and actors of the art sectors, they don't take them seriously. They have other things to care about. Oh, we have this, we have opposition, we have rebels, we have this, we have corruption. Bro, I don't have time with your thing. But at a point, you need to have that. You need to have people with bank accounts. You need to have an infrastructure in place with access to all these. So they all have access to the SysNet, where they can register the works. But then they need artists to come register the work. They need to have servers, fast internet, all that. So all these platforms, they need to be funded. The government need to fund X amount to these societies so they can work. And then after that, you need government to have laws and enforcement so that you can have brigades that go to every club and every concert venue and make sure that whatever music is played, we know, and you pay, so that the artists that have their music played in all the clubs, all the bars, get retributed for whatever amount you make every month. You have to give a percentage for the artist, because you cannot play as a DJ, you cannot play as a club or as a hotel or as whatever if we don't create the music. So whenever you go to a hotel and you're hearing something in the lounge and you hear some music in the back, if you're in Europe, you know that somebody's getting paid for that. If you are in Africa, that person is not getting paid. And so that was the whole premise of this conversation that we had in Morocco. It was super interesting. And I took a lot of contacts from a lot of these guys. And they actually all told me that they would love me to go and be able to maybe be the liaison between maybe an ambassador for CZAC, or maybe for the Congolese artists and African artists in general, to be the person that can explain to those people what are their rights, and maybe also the person that can go and talk to the governments, to ministers of cultures, president, and tell them why we need them to step up their game so that artists can start making a living from doing the soundtracks of your lives and making a living from their work out there in Africa. So listen, a great 3 days that I spent, learned a lot, made me think a lot. And actually I plan to do a club Shada with the president of CZAC Africa, and maybe a few of these people that I met. I plan to have some interesting conversation. I was talking with some artists that were there from Rwanda, who were telling me their experience out there. They wanted actually to invite me in Kigali to do a workshop and explain to artists what are their rights, etc. Same thing in Ivory Coast. Great conversation with somebody that I met 20 years ago there, who was telling me this, that they would love me to go there as well and do some workshop for artists so that they can understand their rights. Same thing with the guy from Senegal, he invited me as well. Same thing with a guy from Kenya as well. So a great thing. And so we were doing a think tank of maybe starting to have copyright friendly cities where you can have a set of directives that you give to a city to have a number of bars and places in that city where all the bar restaurants and stuff are understanding and paying a redevance for all the artists that they play their music. And then your city becomes copyright friendly. Your football stadiums where you play music, etc., they all become copyright friendly because they pay for the licensing of the people's music that you hear in restaurants and in bars, etc. And so that was a super interesting conversation. I can't wait to continue to engage with them. Actually, this conference was finishing today, but we left a day earlier, me and Body Salva, because I got a lot of things to do here. But yeah, listen, it was great, and I can't wait to see what comes out of it. And listen, I hope you enjoyed too these conversation about those things, and I can't wait to talk more about those things, and maybe become an ambassador for somebody that is willing to go from country to country and meet presidents, meet ministers of culture, and open doors. And listen, I lived in politics my whole life, so I know this world, and I lived in art my whole life, so I also know that world. And I've been in business my whole life, so I might be the person I might be that guy that can talk to the free, because to the surprise of those people, they were surprised of how much I knew about what they do. I knew about CISNET, I knew about all these things, when most artists have no clue. So they were like, we have to talk. I was like, yeah, let's talk.